Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm sure this will be one of many videos that you wind up watching as we go through EDD this school year. Hopefully, this video will help you, your parents, other people involved with understanding what at this point, as of the 14th of August 2020, we are going to be able to do using Canvas, using MyPLTW, and making sure that we are all working as much as possible to the highest capacity that we can. And we are going to make sure that everybody can use Canvas at some point or another and that you're all cohesive with it. Come Monday, I'm sure not everybody will have seen this video, but at least those of you that have will have a better knowledge of how to access certain things, where to find them, what they mean, what I'm talking about. So let's get into it. This is your EDD Planning Project Timeline for 2020. This is what I've put in place so that you can see what's being given to you as a task. Those are going to be the things that are in black type and kind of this gray color background, this greenish gray color background here. And then what things are given to you as assignments, that's going to be this maroonish color background with the white type. And you'll notice that the text is in the center. It's center justified. Things that are discussions, so these are taken from what you might know as conclusion questions or coming to the end of an activity, or maybe even in the middle or beginning of an activity where I want you as a team or you as a class to have an open discussion. They're a little more less formal than maybe some of the assignments are. So you'll find that the assignments, the things that we need you to do that have scores, are going to be maroon. The things that we need you to discuss that also pretty much always have a score that are in that light brown color. Those are going to be the big things for you. They're going to be the things that also have yellow boxes around them on the due date. I'm going to talk about those a little bit more later. Things that are in this light blue color, you'll see across the top here, the way that I've frozen the panes for this spreadsheet has it so that as I scroll down, the component 0, which is EDD Project Management, it always stays visible as it goes across the entire semester's worth of tasks. The light blue colors show up there as well so that you can always see on a day that you're going to have some type of presentation or maybe a project proposal or a design proposal, something that you have to do. And you'll see that you have that in the first week, the second week. Then you'll see these dark blue squares, and they line up with where you have an E&B quick check, which we'll talk about. And then you have that in the third week. Then by the fourth week, you have a day off. That's the little red square that you see here on this Monday, September 7th. And when I say you have a day off, I mean that that's a teacher work day or a school holiday or something to that effect. You'll see that there are still tasks to be done on those days and assignments that have been assigned. And in some cases, you'll even see that there's due dates that fall on that day. If you don't want to work on that day, I can't make it. But what I can tell you is that you'll need every day to be able to get through this project as effectively as some of you might want to be able to get through it. So I would encourage you, if there is a due date that falls on one of those days, get it done the day before. Talk to me about the fact that my parents are making me go out of town or whatever, and we'll work that out. Then by the next week, you have another presentation. Then the next week, you have another E&B check. Then the following week, no presentations, but if that's the case, you definitely have a lot of assignments going on. Then you have another presentation for your E&Bs. So this is the engineering notebook assessment. It's a little more formal of an assessment of your, or a check of your E&Bs. We'll talk more about that a little later as well. And then you have another presentation. Then you have a week where you don't have a presentation. Then you have another E&B quick check. no presentation, you have a day off, and then you have another day off. These are lining up with some of the holidays and teacher work days that we have on schedule currently. I'm basing this off of what we've been told at this point are days that we have off. And then we have November 18th, we have reached the end of, well, basically we've reached the end of either a quarter or a progress report. So you'll see these orange ones line up with those dates. And we also have some days where you have another E&B quick check, and then Thanksgiving, and then a presentation right after Thanksgiving, and then you have another E&B notebook assessment, if you will, another engineering notebook assessment. And it'll be the last one that you have. A couple of days before we leave for winter break, then you have all of winter break. You come back and you have your final defense of your project, the biggest presentation that you'll give. All right, I'm going to zoom out. Right now I'm at about 40% zoom here, and I'm also going to collapse a few cells. I'll talk about these cells a little later so that you get a better sense of exactly what they are. But let me collapse these. Okay, and I'll zoom out to, well, let's go ahead and take it out to 10. So this is your semester. I have paced pretty much everything out. You're going to need to stick pretty close to this. The due dates, the presentation dates, those are non-negotiable. If you need an assignment opened a little early because your team has gotten to it before other teams, talk to me about it. If you don't start an assignment exactly on the day that I show it to you guys, or that I have it listed here on this Gantt chart, essentially, then that's your team's call. But you will have to hit those due dates, and you'll have to hit the presentation dates and the E&B notebook check dates. Again, we'll talk more about those. So you'll see that it's pretty much all done. There's a couple of assignments here that I'm trying to work out at the end that deal with prototyping, which obviously is going to be a little challenging. I am bringing home a few more 3D printers so that I can help out with that, but there's going to be some of you that maybe decide an app is the best thing for you to build, or a website, or there's some more complex object that even with the tools that we have in the Fab Lab, you wouldn't have been able to fully prototype it. So we're gonna play that by ear as best we can. There's going to be some of you that your prototyping really is just what you create on CAD, and you get into some assemblies. And then there's going to be some people that maybe your teams don't have access to whatever version of CAD software or 3D modeling software PLTW or Autodesk makes available to you. This is going to be a big hoop to jump through. So this is why it's taking me a little longer than I anticipated to finish those last few pacings. Every assignment that you see is intended to get you to a particular point. So let's take a look at some of the first stuff that you have to do here. Let's back you out to 30%. All right. So we're going to start the semester by making sure that, one, you know how to get onto the learning management system, onto Canvas. And then we're going to start pushing towards making sure that you're ready for the first assignment. So there's going to be a couple of things that I'll send out to you guys in the next few days that might help with this. But the design process overview, we're going to just glaze right over that. Very quick, like what you guys are familiar with sitting down and watching a PowerPoint and taking some notes. We're going to breeze through stuff. If I have a PowerPoint for you guys, most of the time it's going to be embedded within an assignment, and you're going to take the time that you need to look it over and do what you need to. My job will be to facilitate. Well, that's going to start with the design process overview task. So the thing that you need to understand. Notice that I'm giving you guys 2 days for that. Zoom in just a little bit more here so you can see it. This is how many days there are throughout this semester. And keep in mind, I'm counting every day moving forward from the start of this coming week through right before exams technically start. So that's about 145 days or so. There's 2 days that we're going to spend talking about what the design process is. Most of you guys are fairly familiar with it. Then we're going to move you into things like, let's see, scrolling down here, what the process evaluations are. We're going to take 2 days if we need to talk about that. I'm going to introduce intellectual property to you guys, and then you're going to have a discussion about that on the following day. We're also going to jump right into component 1 and get into some of that research. This is where we'll talk about brainstorming possible problems. You're going to have a discussion that helps you and your teammates be able to complete the first assignment, which is forming teams. This has to be one of the very first things that we do so that you guys can be put into your project teams as soon as possible. The sooner you're in those teams, the sooner you can start working, and the sooner you've figured out basically what the problem is that your team needs to solve or wants to solve. So that's where choosing topic discussions comes in very important. You'll notice that on day 4, you're going to give a small presentation. See how that comes after the forming teams part? So forming teams assignment is due that day, but there is a presentation associated with it. So you'll have until pretty much midnight that night, so 11:59, to be able to submit anything that you might need to or turn anything in that you might need to. And then you'll have a presentation the next day. They'll be very quick, very informal, very much so just helping us get through some brainstorming. Then you'll have a discussion that follows that, but notice that it'll open up before it's due. So if you get it done early and you want to go ahead and start looking at that presentation, or if you or at that discussion, or if you want to wait until after the presentations, you still have a day or so after that to get it done. You'll see that we bounce around a little bit, right? So we start that here, and if you scroll down, you're also starting your project proposal that day. Now that means probably very little to you, but the project proposal is the first big presentation that you have to give. It's a very formal presentation, comparative to, say, forming teams. This one is where you're going to lay out for us what your proposal is for the project that you're going to work on for the semester. You have 31 days starting as of the 17th until it is due, and then you'll give a presentation right after that. The next day. Everybody will present on the same day. We'll all be present for it. It'll be in class. You definitely want to make sure you're there that day. And you want to make sure that you stick to the time frames that we have for you for those proposals. They don't have to be super extensive because, again, you've done just a little bit of work to determine what that project should be. Okay, so this kind of, I hope, anyway, gets you thinking about some of how this sheet is laid out, how this spreadsheet works. You'll notice that tasks overlap. Some tasks are more overarching than others, and they're broken down into some smaller subtasks. So you've got develop problem statement, and then that's broken into 2 parts, defining the problem statement and finalizing your problem statement. So they do overlap with each other, but then both of them are part of developing the problem statement. And then you have this team's problem statement assignment, and that lasts for 12 days and is due before you finish developing the problem statement. So there's a discussion that goes along with that, and there's becoming an expert that will be due before you technically are finished with what developing a problem statement will involve. Some of these may flex a little bit here and there, but we'll pull it up and talk about it pretty much every day. Almost every activity, or every assignment has a discussion. Not all of them do. You see here that becoming an expert doesn't necessarily have a discussion, but you will also find that they often overlap in great amounts. So team's problem statement assignment and becoming an expert assignment, those two overlap a lot. So you're going to be concurrently working on those things. And at the same time, you're going to be making sure that your team has shared its Google Drive folder with me. And you're going to be making sure that your engineering notebook quick check is in place and your engineering notebook assessment is in the back of your mind happening. And at the exact same time, while working on it, you're going to have an assignment that's due that's part of a resources component within EDD's curriculum. And your team is going to have to give a small presentation that is about a particular topic. You also have a discussion that goes along with that. So there's never a day where you don't have something to work on. There are a few spots throughout all of this that you will find where you have a week maybe that nothing is really due that week. And that's because I've been able to work it out where, yeah, you're going to be so busy working on so many concurrent assignments and dictating as a team who's working on what. Nearly everything after forming teams, with the exception of discussions, nearly everything is a group or a team assignment. And so different from all of your other PLTW classes, your team is extremely dependent on you being there, doing your part of the work, and then making sure that when it is turned in, that your part is there with it to be turned in, because your team is going to be assessed as a team. You're not going to be assessed with a lot of these assignments as individuals, even within that team. It's going to be, did you do your part with your team? Because your team needs a grade for this or needs a score for this. And if you don't have your part in, it's going to impact your team's score. Now, I know this is a big issue for a lot of people, and it's, oh, well, I do all of the work. You can't do that. That's not going to be even feasible. You have to delegate. You have to spread it out. You have to remember that this class is about you being as professional as possible and working with your teams. That's why the forming teams assignment at the very beginning is so important. I will have some input on that, but for the most part, you're going to pick your teams based on the problems that you want to solve. Okay, this is massive. This is a huge sheet. There's a lot to take in here. You're going to be looking this over quite a bit. There will be changes. I would love to tell you that there won't be. I know that there's going to be changes made to this. I do want to point out one last thing on this sheet. There are hyperlinks along this entire left panel here. Each one of any assignment, discussion, or even a task that I have provided, I should say that I have finished, any one of them you can click on, and hopefully, technology loves not working, it will take you directly to that spot in Canvas. Now, that goes for any component title, any title of a task, any title of an assignment, any title of a discussion. You click on it. Let's see if it works. And it should open up in a tab that particular area or assignment or discussion within Canvas. Okay, this is for another video. All of Canvas. So I'm going to pause here and upload this, hopefully get it out to you guys so you can start seeing and start looking at some stuff for those of you that want to be even further ahead of the game than you've already managed to be. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was a little helpful at minimum. I know you're going to have questions for me, and that's cool. Write them down. We'll take it one day at a time. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.